Hey guys, it's me Kevin and welcome to my official 2022 AFL Ladder Predictions video. The footy is back. Well, men's footy's back. Of course we had AFLW for 10 weeks before that. But the AFL is back and it's the start of the season, and today I will be predicting the AFL Ladder prediction for the end of the 2022 season, as we do every year, because that's what basically every AFL fan likes to do. Make some calls, some very brave calls, that they can either get amazingly right or shockingly wrong. So let's see which ones are which, and we can come back at the end of the season and see how well this video aged. So I will be going through my AFL ladder predictions right now. In 18th spot, I've got Hawthorn. And unfortunately with them, I just don't see too much quality on that list. I mean, they've got one of the best midfielders in Tom Mitchell, but apart from that, there isn't really much to be excited about. Their defence is respectable. They'll get James Sicily back from ACL. But their forward line is where I'm most concerned with them. They're having to rely on Bruce, Gunston, and Koshitsky only. And apart from that, there isn't really much else in the forward line. So they're going to really badly struggle to score this year. We saw it Collingwood last year, who could barely score. That it caused problems for them. And I think it will cause similar problems for Hawthorn. So I see them taking the wooden spoon out. In 17th spot, the Eagle has crash landed. And I'm saying this as a West Coast fan. I mean, our injury list has been shocking. Yo, Sheed, Cole, Chesser, who else? Cripps. I can't even remember. And now Jack Darling, even though he's coming back, he hasn't had a good off-season, so he's not going to be well-conditioned. Neither is Liam Ryan, Tim Kelly. It's getting worse. The whole thing has gone to crap. COVID's hit WA. See, here's the thing. The Eagles have a good team. It's just it's either aging or it's aching. And our forward line's not firing. I feel like travel's going to be an even bigger issue. I feel like our injury list and our fitness is just going to get even worse. I don't have the Eagles winning any away games this year. I think our only wins will be at home. And yeah, I can see the Eagles crashing all the way this badly this year. 16th spot, I've got North Melbourne. I can see them marginally improving with the acquisition of Greenwood and Coleman Jones. I think they'll definitely add to the midfield, particularly Greenwood. In the midfield, that's missing Cunningham at the moment. So I think North Melbourne, they were definitely competitive at the back end of last year. I feel like as their young guns continue to develop, I reckon they'll get better. And I can see them being a competitive team this year. I just think that they're still an extremely young and inexperienced team. And personally, I can't see them winning more than about 6 games this year. But I still think they will improve enough to avoid the wooden spoon. In 15th spot, I've got Adelaide staying where they are around right now. I think they definitely look competitive, and with the acquisition of Jordan Dawson, I feel like that strengthens their defense, which I think is already their strong point. I feel like their midfield and defense will be all right enough to compete. I think the main issue with Adelaide will be their forward line this year. Tex Walker's missing for the first 3 weeks, so yeah, they're not going to be able to score many goals. But I do reckon they do look competitive, the Adelaide Crows. And there is a more positive vibe going around there. So I think the Crows will be around where they were last year. In 14th spot, I've got Collingwood. Look, the Pies weren't even that bad last year to finish 17th. I mean, they only lost 2 games by more than 30 points. It's just their forward line wasn't able to fire, and that was their main problem. Still is a main problem. They haven't really fixed it. However, their team is looking a little bit better with the introduction of Patrick Lipinski. Adams comes back from injury last year, and obviously they're younger players. They've had a bit of game time at the end of last year, and they looked more positive at the end of last year as well. And Craig McRae under a new coach, I think they should be. They'll play with a bit more freedom, where they can win a few more games. And I also think an easier fixture will help them win a few more games as well. Do you remember last year they had to play, who was it twice? They played like 3 of the top 8 teams twice last year, which contributed to their extremely low finishing. So I reckon they'll improve a little bit to finish outside of the bottom 4. In 13th spot, I've got GWS. And yes, despite making the finals last year, despite them having a really strong midfield and a pretty good defense, I've still got them finishing 13th because of a couple reasons. Their forward line. Yes, I've been mentioning the forward line all episode, but those that don't have a good forward line aren't going to do that well. And GWS, there's no Toby Green for the first 5 rounds. That's to complement the loss of Jeremy Finlayson. And Even last year they were struggling with forward avenues. And all of a sudden, I think the GWS are going to struggle to score. And to make things worse, look at their fixture. Look at who they have to play twice. Brisbane, Bulldogs, and Sydney, as well as Fremantle and Carlton, who are two teams that are tipped to climb as well. So, yeah, their fixtures made it super difficult for them to make the finals again, and I think it's going to fall flat on them, particularly when you have to consider the momentum fact as well. In 12th spot, I know what you're thinking. I'm putting the Gold Coast Suns way higher than pretty much everyone else, because for all the negativity that's been circulating around them in the media, I can still see a lot of positives. Yes, they've lost Ben King and Hugh Greenwood. Ben King in particular is the big loss because that means they don't have their best forward in the team. But I still think they've got some options to cover. Not cover King, but at least work with their forward line with Marby Achol and Sexton. And Jack Lukosius could move up there as well, potentially. And Isaac Rankin, if he improves, he could also be a big threat up there. Their midfield's developing nicely. Rao is building up fitness, and he's tipped to have a big season. Anderson, Ainsworth, Fiorini, add them all together. You've got a decent midfield as well. And yeah, I also reckon they've got and you also even add Constable in there as well. I also reckon they've got a pretty easy fixture. I mean, they play Hawthorn, North Melbourne, Collingwood, and West Coast twice. So the AFL is making things even easier for Gold Coast to succeed. And also when you factor in that they're playing for Stuart Dew, I'm sure a lot of the players out there support Stuart Dew and want him to stay as coach. Of course, if they finish bad, he's going to be sacked. So I think they're going to be playing hard for their coach. Look, I don't think they have the quality to make the 8 or even push for finals. But I actually don't think they're going to be like a really bad side either. I reckon they'll at least finish for a respectable mid-table position. In 12th spot, I've got St Kilda. And every Saints fan will be thinking, why do we have another tough fixture? I thought we just had a tough one last year. Which, yes, I can sympathise with you. I mean, why did they give you double ups against Sydney, Brisbane, Geelong and Fremantle? And also compounded by that, they've got a few inactive players like Zach Jones, Billings, Hunter Clark. So they've got a few fitness and injury concerns. Here's the sad thing. I actually think St Kilda has decent quality on their team. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they made the top 8 or even pushed for like a top 6 position. I do rate their team. I just feel like the fixture's going to hurt them and it's going to cause them to struggle for consistency, which I think was the big problem with St Kilda last year. They had some really good performances, really bad performances, and a shit draw. And that's basically the same thing this year, in my opinion. So I think it's basically going to be a repeat of 2021 for the Saints. In 10th spot, and the first of 4 teams to be separated by percentage on 12 wins, I've got the Fremantle Dockers. Yeah, I just feel like the Dockers, they're going to win 12 games this season, in my opinion. They're definitely going to improve. Their midfield's coming along nicely, and they get some good recruits like Will Brodie and who's the other one from Geelong, Jordan Clark. So yeah, they've got some good recruits, and they're definitely building along nicely. I just feel that they tend to win by small margins and lose by big margins, and I feel like if it comes to a percentage game, I feel like the Dockers are going to be on the wrong end of a percentage decider. And I also think them playing Melbourne as well is going to hurt them as well as the Bulldogs away from home. So yeah, Freo in 10th on 12 wins. And then in 9th, I've got Carlton. Again, the same thing. I just don't think Carlton will have the percentage to be able to sneak into the top 8. I do think that with the acquisition of Hewitt Chera, I do feel like they're definitely going to improve this year, as well as Lockie Young. That's the other one I was thinking of. Unfortunately, though, they've got some injury concerns both in their defence up and up forward. Liam Jones retired due to the vaccine mandate, and I feel like their defence is looking weak, and that was their weak position last year, and I don't think it's improved. So I think defensively they're going to be a poor side. I feel like they're going to score a lot more, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's going to come down to percentage, and they'll be on the wrong end of it. In 8th spot, I've got Essendon, and if it comes down to a percentage game, I feel like Essendon will be on the better side of it, given their strong percentage last year and in recent years, which actually got them across the line last year. And look, their midfield is absolutely stacked. I mean, they've got Merritt, Parrish, Shield, Caldwell, Langford. It's honestly stacked. I mean, I think their midfield is going to be one of the best in the competition. It'll be hard to stop. It's going to be on either ends, which I think is going to be their downfall, similar to the Bulldogs. But the Bulldogs managed to get around it, and I think Essendon, whilst they're still a bit young, and I feel like they've got to do a little bit more developing up there, I feel like their midfield's stacked, and they've got enough to just sneak themselves into the top 8. And lastly, also on 12 wins in 7th spot, I've got Geelong. I reckon they will have a strong record at GMHBA Stadium. I feel like it's going to be their games away from home where they lose the bulk of their games. Yes, they're too old, and I think that's the argument that's circulating around at the moment. And I still think they're a good team. Like, they were, remember, an after the siren kick away from finishing with the minor premiership last year. But I just feel like some of these players like Selwood, Hawkins, Dangerfield, like, you know, Duncan Stewart, they're getting old, and I do think that they're going to struggle with games away from home against faster teams like Sydney, Port Adelaide, and Brisbane, for example, and Melbourne. Their home record will still remain very strong, but I do think Geelong, they're going to be heavily relying on their home ground advantage just to get them into finals. In 6th spot, I've got, same as last year, Sydney Swans. They're definitely a good team. They look stable. They haven't had too much negativity in the off-season. So I reckon it'll be more the same from Sydney. Also, a few of their younger guns like Florent and Heaney will continue to develop. And if we can see more from Mills like last year where he absolutely dominated, I think, yeah, Sydney do look like an exciting team. They haven't really added much though either, so it's hard to see them improving into like the top 4, into premiership contention. But I can't see them sliding either, so I think they'll be, 6 again. In 5th spot, I've got Port Adelaide. I can see this team falling out of the 8th on a psychological basis, particularly after that disastrous thumping against the Western Bulldogs. We've seen teams like GWS and Adelaide just crash outside the finals afterwards, after a heavy loss, and I can just see the Port slipping out. But I reckon it will only be slipping out of the top 4. I just feel like their team is looking extremely fast, attacking and exciting. Players like Ammon, Rosie, and Butters will only continue to develop. And I feel like for the in terms of Boak and Gray, well, they have already been kind of phased out a bit as it is. So I feel like even a reduce in their input won't influence Port Adelaide too much. So I still reckon they'll be good enough to make the finals, make a home final. I just don't reckon it'll be a top 4 finish again. 4th place, I've got Richmond. I honestly see a parallel between them and 2018 Hawthorn, where they were at the end of their premiership window, but they just made finals one last time just before all their big guns retired. And I feel like the same will happen with Richmond. I don't think they'll be relevant enough to really push for the premiership, but I do think that, well, with the addition of Robbie Tarrant and a couple others, I think Richmond will at least make the top 4. Make one last final series, not really do much in the finals, and then they'll drop off in 2023. But I just see Richmond just coming up for one more year. And their fixture's quite easy as well. So, they've definitely got the fixture for them to just bounce back up into the top 4 again. I just don't think they'll be doing much in finals, that's all. 3rd spot, I've got the Western Bulldogs. I still see them as a very strong team, even after getting thrashed to Melbourne. I don't see this team falling anywhere in the immediate term. This team is looking very strong. We know about their midfield, really. Doesn't need explaining. And, I don't know when Josh Bruce is coming back. Hopefully he comes back in the middle of the year, which will help them propel in the final third of the year. And I just reckon the Western Bulldogs, coming off a grand final appearance, are primed to launch back into the top 4 again. In 2nd spot, I've got Brisbane Lions for the 3rd time in 4 years. Look, last year was an absolutely disastrous season for Brisbane Lions. No doubt about that. They finished 4th. And that was a pretty bad season for them. So that shows how much further they can go and shows them how capable they are of competing for the premiership. And really, Cam Rayner will come back from injury. Eric Hipwood should come back halfway through the season as well, you think? So, Brisbane are looking even better than they were last year, and I don't think there's really a weak point with that team. And winning the minor premiership again, I've got Melbourne. And no, not because they won the premiership last year. Have you seen the depth of that list? I mean, seriously, if they had an injury list as bad as the Eagles, they'd probably still make the top 4. I mean, seriously, some of the players that didn't play in that grand final would have been easy players in the starting 22 on any other team. I mean, you look at, what was there? Wiedemann, Melksham, there was a few others. And I mean, they even add Dunstan as well to what's his name? Jaden Hunt. And they even add Dunstan to that as well. I mean, it is a stacked team. They've got a stacked depth as well. And unless if they've got a really bad injury list, I expect them to win the minor premiership again. So for my finals predictions, I've got Melbourne beating Richmond and Brisbane beating the Bulldogs. Meanwhile, in the lower half, I've got Sydney beating... what's their names? Sydney beating Geelong and Port Adelaide beating Essendon. So basically all the home teams. However, when the away team will win is I think Port Adelaide will beat Richmond, like Hawthorn in 2018. Whilst I think the Bulldogs will do enough to beat Sydney and Melbourne will beat the Dogs just like last year. And then, yeah, Brisbane will manage to beat Port Adelaide pretty easily. But it'll be the grand final where I think Brisbane will actually do enough to win the premiership. I think Melbourne will just stumble for the grand final. I do reckon the Brisbane Lions will take out the premiership this year. So, my Brownlow medal tip, Marcus Bontempelli. I feel like after just missing out last year, he'll have the fire in his belly to win it this year. Coleman medal, I reckon Jeremy Cameron, he will come back. He's looking fitter than ever, and I reckon he'll come back. Rising Star Award, I've got Matt Rowell. No, I'm just kidding. I've got Jason Horne-Francis to win the Rising Star Award. So I hope you like these AFL ladder predictions. Let's see how many I got right and how many got badly wrong at the end of the year. Please like, please subscribe, comment what you think of my video down below, what you think of my predictions. Check out some of my other videos, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.